In February 1862, with no warning at all, London fell through the surface of the earth. This was meant to be a year of progress and industry. The Great Exposition, trams, a new sewer system. Instead, we find ourselves dwelling in a cave. It's October now. The fires have been put out. The bodies have been buried. But the future remains unimaginable. The time before, impossibly distant. These are the opening lines of Failbetter Games' Mask of the Rose, a game set in the Fallen London universe, and particularly set when London first falls. And immediately, as a fan of the series, I found myself hooked. To see for the first time the actual fall of London City into the depths, whisked away by a cloud of bats, is very interesting to me. And it is my honor and pleasure to have been given a press build of this game to review for all of you. So, let's get into that now. Let's start with your options of your past. The game gives you 3 starting options. A dockworker's child, allied with criminals and the working class. A child of the gentry, allied with high society and the constables. And a tailor, allied with society and artists. There are other backgrounds that unlock after completing a playthrough of the game, but I won't be touching on those in this review. Each of your 3 starting options will give you a unique piece of clothing, but let's put a pin in the way clothes work for now as we go over the next bit of character creation, names and portraits. In Fallen London, you can be called whatever you wish, as the setting makes very clear that the fall makes it very easy to reinvent whoever you used to be as someone new, if you wish. You're then given the choice of how strangers address you and your name. A few examples being Lord, Lady, Comrade, Commander, Professor, Sir, Ma'am, Lieutenant. In my eyes, these very much keep alive the trend in the world of Fallen London that gender doesn't affect as much as it may have on the surface. Or, to quote the gender selection from the original Fallen London itself, a lady, a gentleman, or, my dear sir, there are individuals roaming the streets of Fallen London at this very moment with the faces of squid. Squid! Do you ask them their gender? And yet you waste our time asking me trifling and impertinent questions about mine. It is my own business, sir, and I bid you good day. Always one of my favorites. After you pick that, though, you get to move on to your portrait, or a cameo, as the game calls it. It's just what appears next to your dialogue when you talk and doesn't seem to affect much else, but I've always liked this feature of Failbetter Games' work. No gender locks or anything, just a bunch of nice silhouettes. You choose which one you like the most. And with our us completed, the game poses a final question. Are we looking for friendship, romance, physical intimacy, or any combination of the 3? Except friendship. You can't opt out of friends. At least not the option to become friends. You can always be a dick and just have no friends that way, or just tell the game you don't want to be friends when it asks you your intentions towards someone. You then get a last chance to look over your choices, decide if anything else needs changing, and then you're off to the races. And by off to the races, I mean that you're given your first story objective. Help with the census, because one of the people in your flat board house thing asked you to, and now you have no job and you need to pay rent somehow. Or you're like me, heard that the census is being ran by Mr. Pages, and instantly wanted to go be the bestest boy, girl, person for the Masters. Technically, thirst isn't an option given by the game for your actions, but in my mind, that's why Karak of Fallen London is doing this. because the thing in the robe made him feel all sorts of ways. Anyway, your buddy Grizz wants you to help with the census and even gave you a spiffy badge to prove you're asking people invasive questions on official business, not just because you're nosy. I mean, you might be nosy, who knows? The game gives you a tutorial on clothing here, but we'll take that pin out later as we have a couple more important first day story bits to delve into, or to go over before we delve into mechanics. So after picking out your amazing outfit of your starting shirt and a badge, Grizz gives you a rundown of how the census works, and the game shows off its dialogue options. These are pretty basic right now, as they seem to mostly be there to help you get a feel of how you want to roleplay and have you feel out some basic personality bits. The more important bit is Grizz letting you test out the census questions on her and how you present the census questions. And then you get let out into the city after meeting Archie, another person living in the board house. Quiz him for the census, and finally be on your way. I won't go over the rest of the first day, as there's a couple different branching routes of how it can play out, but generally is you ask a bunch of people census questions after visiting a couple different locations. You then go home and have supper, and also hand in your census records to Pages for the day. And that's the first day. So instead, from there, we will move on to more mechanical stuff. So, the way clothing works in Mask of the Rose is both simple and very interesting. The clothes you wear affect both how people see you and how you can then interact with the various peoples and non-peoples of Fallen London. Just an example, I started the game with a corsage and then was given my official census badge. By wearing the corsage, I'm given the option to quote the census question exactly as written, in all of their over exuberance for word choice. And with the badge, I can state much clearer that I'm asking for the number of people in a residence and their romantic/marital status. The game also gives you a description of your outfit in the clothing menu that has unique variations for every bit of clothing you have on. It creates a system where you want to get as many different clothing items as you can and swap between them liberally to better match whatever situation you're walking into or person you're meeting. It also helps reinforce a rather constant theme in the Fallen London universe that identity is fluid and malleable, especially below the surface. The other big mechanic, at least from my time playing, was story crafting, which was a pleasant surprise given how much I enjoyed early game story creation in Fallen London. Of course, the systems aren't exactly the same, but for me at least, it was a nice throwback to the early making your name sections of that game. So in Mask of the Rose, occasionally you'll be asked to make stories of both fact and fiction. Story crafting is a simple enough process in writing. There are slots for things such as who, actions, motives, which you fill with characters that you've met, things you've heard of, and theories for behavior, etc., etc. In practice, it's a touch more complex, though, from what I experienced, though not too much more so. For example, you may know the action someone took, but not the motive, so you'll have to set it as unknown and do more research by listening for rumors, talking to other characters, and paying attention to the newspaper you get each day. As you interact with the world, you'll gain new characters, actions, and motivations for your stories, and you'll know when you get something new as the game gives you a lovely big old message saying, "Story crafting ideas discovered," and telling you exactly what you got and exactly what slot it goes in. And you can write and edit a story in your room without causing time to pass, so honestly, I recommend checking to see if you've gotten anything good for your story whenever you have time, just in case. The last thing I want to touch on with this review is the journal. It has what season it is, your current goal, along with the sub goals for it. For example, go to XYZ place with specific person, with a sub goal of ask people how to get there. It's just a nice little bit of extra to help guide if you're lost as to how to do a goal. Your journal also has information about the people you've met. Things like their name, their job, where they live, if you know that about them, their romantic interests, alongside their relationship to you and your history with them. Interesting info to browse as you learn more about them, and likely in the mid to late game, as you learn more about people, it could be a useful way to gauge their personality and how to dress and speak with them. So, all in all, very useful info. So, to wrap things up, I honestly think if the game looks even slightly interesting, you should give it a go. Mask of the Rose is on Windows, Mac, Steam, Linux, and Nintendo Switch at time of launch, with plans to be verified on Steam Deck and to be released for PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, and the Xbox Series XS in the future. It's $9.99 US and $12.99 Canadian, so even if for some reason you aren't a fan of the game, it won't break the bank, so there's no reason not to give it a shot. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a lovely day and a wonderful year.